Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and in this episode we're going to be unboxing a game called Paladins of the West Kingdom. This comes from Shem Phillips and J Macdonald and is published by Garphill Games. I'm very excited and looking forward to checking the components inside of this box out with you guys. I'm a big fan of Raiders of the North Sea, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what is Paladins all about. We're going to flip this thing over, take a look at the back of the box, and then we're going to dive inside. Paladins of the West Kingdom is set at a turbulent time of West Francia's story, circa 900 AD. Despite recent efforts to develop the city, outlying townships are still under threat from outsiders. Saracens scout the borders while Vikings plunder wealth and livestock. Even the Byzantines from the east have shown their darker side. As noble men and women, players must gather workers from the city to defend against enemies, build fortifications, and spread faith throughout the land. Fortunately, you are not alone. In his great wisdom, the king has sent his finest knights to help aid in our efforts. So ready the horses and sharpen the swords. The paladins are approaching. When you first open up the box, you'll be greeted with the rulebook. This rulebook consists of 36 pages of rules. On the very back, we have a quick reference for rewards, which is very helpful in the iconography within the game. You'll want to check that out. We're not going to go through every single page in the rulebook, but one thing I want to point out for those individuals curious about the solo side of things, we have a solo play rules and a scoring example. That whole section's at the back of the rulebook, so if you're looking for that specifically, that's where you're going to want to find it. And I will go back one more page just so you can see the attention to detail with the solo play. So we have the king's favor here on the right, the end of round. Going back a little bit, we have the king's order, convert, and attack. And going even further back, you can see this whole thing is broken down into AI actions. So it's all very well laid out, very easy to read, and is not just a single page. It's actually a multiple pages consisting of this rules overview. So this solo section basically starts around page 26 and goes to the end of the rulebook, which is quite nice because that's actually taking up quite a bit of focus in this book, showing you that this was just not tacked on after the fact. Now, going to the very beginning of the book, you're going to see the actual introduction for the game itself, along with the components inside. You'll see the card breakdown, so you can ensure that you have everything you need to get going. And this will give you a rough idea as to how the actual rulebook is laid out. I'm not going to go over every single page inside of the rulebook, but you can see it's a very strikingly visual and very pleasing on the eyes type of game. The artistic work in this, very reminiscent of Raiders of the North Sea for those that are familiar, and I very much like that style. Plus, the rulebook itself is nicely laid out. It's not just massive piles of words everywhere. Everything's broken up nicely. Lots of white space, lots of illustrations. Won't go over every single page as I mentioned, but this gives you a rough idea as to what you can expect inside the rulebook. Now you can see that as soon as the rulebook is removed, this game box is absolutely jam-packed. There are only small pockets of breathable air inside of this thing, right here and right here. The rest of this pretty much is filled right to the brim with cards and tokens and all kinds of different pieces. So we're gonna have to go through these one at a time. We'll start off with all of these. So when you open up that bag full of tokens, there's a whole bunch of smaller bags of tokens. We have laborers right here in white. In green, we have the scouts. In blue, the merchants. In red, the fighters. In black, we have the clerics. And finally, in purple, we have the criminals. Now, down below, we have a bunch of tokens that I'm not as familiar with just yet, but you can see here they look like they're for structures. We have 3 or 4 different major structures here across these tokens, and some of these look to be more like trackers. Next up inside the box, you're going to find 2 punchboard sheets. This is a punchboard sheet full of not only the likely first player marker, but as well as a bunch of provision tokens, or what these ones are called. I'll flip this over to the other side so you can see it, but it's duplicated on the back. And then over here, we have the silver tokens to punch out as well. Again, similar on the back side. Inside the box, you're also going to find 4 player boards. This is just one of them. them. The other three I've got folded up off camera right now, and they're also double-sided. So what you're seeing right now is the actual player board side. If you flip this one over to the opposite side, you'll then see the AI side of this board. The next two fold-out boards inside the box are considered two parts of the main board. You can see them right here, 1 and 2, and if you flip these things over or to look on the back side of them, they are not double-sided. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the standard cards that come inside the game. So these, if I'm not mistaken, are considered outsider cards. So we'll just go through them because, again, iconography may not make any sense as of this point, but we saw some of these icons on the back of the rulebook as well as some of the tokens that we looked through earlier, but I do really want to focus on the artwork here as well because I really love it. So I am looking forward to this, and you can see in the top left-hand corner the similar icon across all of these particular ones. And as we move down the list, you'll also see the name in the bottom right-hand corner for each of these. You'll see that symbol change up from time to time, and the name is always changing up. So we'll just continue on through. Again, I'm not as familiar with this game as I am with many other ones I've unboxed on the channel, so this one is going to be one that I'll have to dive into a little bit further to figure out what is really going on with this one. And if I continue on through, you'll see there are many, many outsiders that can be a part of this particular game, which is pretty cool. I'll just keep on moving on through, and we get to a different section here coming up. This is going to be the Paladin cards. So you can see right here, this is a Paladin card, and there's a number of them as well. So I'll put these other ones to the side for now, and we'll continue on through. The artwork on these ones is really nice, and again, it's very uniform across all the cards. All the cards are obviously created from the same artist or artist because the look and feel of all these things are very uniform, and that's nice to see that there isn't a huge variation between them. I am very excited to check out the solo side of this to see how that AI board really works and how well it works, but it looks like a very, very cool looking game. Continuing right along with pack number 2, we are continuing through the Paladin cards. So again, feel free to pause the screen if you want to stop at any one of these and take a little bit of a closer look as I move through them at a fairly quick pace. You'll also know that some of these ones are repeating, but I imagine some of the numbers on them are probably different, although I'm not checking or stopping to compare them. But there are quite a few of them in here. Now we're going to be coming up to a whole new section of cards here. These are considered to be the townsfolk cards. So you can see here we got Abbott starting us off here and a number of him. Now let's take a look. You'll see there is differences between cards that even have similar actual artist drawing or depictions of an artist drawing on them. So that's pretty cool actually, because there's multiple of these ones and they're all different. So that's interesting. And we continue on through here for these townsfolk. There seems to be about 3 each so far. And now we're getting into some where there's only 2. Or maybe I just skipped over one because we're continuing the pattern of 3 here. But again, those icons are changing as we go through. The missionaries here. Peddlers here as well. Peddler's got a pretty big nose going on. Squire. The Watchman. And that finishes off that pack. Now we're going to move into the mini cards. You can see here these are called the wall cards. They look like this on the back side. And on the front side, again, it's mostly just iconography, so there's not too much to really capture here. But I do want to kind of just move through them at a relatively quick pace. You can see roughly what's in there. These next cards, there's 24 of them. They're called tavern cards. So we'll flip them over. You can see it has a really nice illustration of being inside of a tavern there with the iconography of different individuals on these cards. So that's pretty cool. We went over those earlier on in the unboxing. But again, it's just going to be different variations of them throughout. Next up, we have 24 suspicion cards, and this guy definitely looks like a suspicious individual, but you can see here, this is what it looks like on the opposite side. Only minor changes between some of them. Some of them are blank, some of them have 1, some of them show 2. Seems to be involving money. Now these ones are exciting because these are the 17 scheme cards that come inside the game that are specific to solo play. So you're definitely going to want to take notice for these ones as they have to do with solo, and that's what matters here. So the King's Order, got the King's Favor, Absolve, Attack, Commission, Conspire, Convert, Fortify, Garrison, Pray, and Recruit. So this really seems to be the AI deck, if I'm not mistaken. This next hand of cards here has actually 6 cards that are red, which are considered the King's Order cards, and then it has 10 King's Favor cards with the green seal on it. So we're going to flip them over, starting with the green ones, move through those 10, and then we'll take a look at the red. Again, most of this won't make too much sense unless you're familiar with the rules, but once you are, then it makes all the sense in the world. But I will just flip through these quite quickly for you. And last but not least, for the mini cards, we have debt cards. These are pretty self-explanatory. They say the word debt right on them. So we've got a whole bunch of these cards. We flip them over. We'll take a look at the opposite side. Again, they're going to have iconography and numbers on them. So I'll do my best not to cover up those symbols if I possibly can with my thumb. But these are mini cards, so they're quite small. But it just looks like at the end of the day, deck cards are just all the same, and they're probably all bad. So as we move through them, I'm not seeing any variation here on these cards whatsoever, but I imagine you'll be taking debt as you play the game, if you so choose to, or maybe if you don't. And that's going to conclude the unboxing for Paladins of the West Kingdom. I really hope this is an informative video and helping you make a decision on whether or not this is a game you'd like to pick up. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.